What's up, guys, and welcome back to Project Time Garage and episode number 6 on our Barn Find Firebird Formula project. If you don't know anything about this project, or if you haven't seen this, I encourage you to go back and watch the whole series, which I'm going to put somewhere floating up here above my head, and that'll catch you up on everything. Long story short, the car sat in a barn for better part of 20 years, maybe a little over 20 years. It was my car originally. I bought it in 1990 with about 11,000 miles or so on it. I stuck it in a barn. It sat there forever. Thieves broke into it. Thieves left the door open for years. Animals got in there, like big animals, pterodactyls and what have you. All had babies in the car, and it was a mess. It was an absolute disaster. So in these past few episodes, we have got the thing running. We've got the interior gutted. Last episode, I painted the floor pans in a nice bright Rust-Oleum, and we got it all pressure washed and cleaned up. The dash is out of it, so I can clean all the HVAC ducts and bleach it and pretty much just kill it all with fire. And today, we're gonna start going back together with this thing, starting with the dashboard. I'm gonna reassemble the whole thing. It's all been cleaned and pressure washed and bleached and disinfected, and it's as clean as it's ever gonna be. So, let's get rolling on this. Now, I do have carpet ordered, and I have a brand new set of seats for it. And I've got a brand new door panel coming for it. Unfortunately, the carpet and the door panels are somewhere in shipment. It may be a week or 2 or even 3 from now before that stuff shows up. But I feel like if I can get the dash put in it and all wired and put back together and cleaned up, we'll be miles ahead. Let's get to work. Well, since the last video, I've gone ahead and I've put the heater cord back in it, and all this stuff here has been cleaned up and, disinfected as best I can disinfect it anyway. So I guess the thing to do is just start putting it back together, and we'll see if we need anything else along the way. The best part about this is leaning all the way inside the car. It's fun. Can't seem to get anything anywhere in here. Oh, that sucks. This thing right here, it doesn't want to go into its home. And that's its home. I need it to go there. I think it might have something to do with linkage adjustment, because I'll loosen this. This is less than easy. Everything's spring-loaded, and it's out to get you all of it. There we go. I feel like there should be another screw somewhere to hold this together, but there's not. There's got to be an easier way. The easier way. Okay. Now the center section here. Still wish there was another screw right there to hold some of this in. It just feels loose to me. I know that this goes here, but I don't see any way to make it stay attached there, because this all attaches to the dash, and there are no screws that go through to hold it on. So this has got to go on the back of the dash. The problem I'm going to have here is that this wiring harness attaches to the back of the dashboard, but it attaches underneath this. So the wiring harness has to go onto the dash, then this has to go onto the dash, and that's ugly. That's real ugly. It was tough to get it off. It's going to be worse to get it back on. One thing I've learned about YouTube is viewers like to watch a good struggle. My guess is you're not going to be disappointed. All right, well, here comes the dash without the HVAC system on it, or at least without the HVAC ducting. Because I have to try to figure out how to get this big wiring harness connected to the back of it before I put the HVAC ducting on it. It would be easy if this wiring harness had like a break point so you could unplug it, fit it to the dash, and set it all in there, but it doesn't. I know that I have a couple of push tabs there and here. There's another one. All right, so there's that. I hope this is the right way to do this. I've gone ahead and put my my vent ducts in, the ones that come out to the side here for the windows. Those are in there and screwed down. But I have to figure out like how the rest of it goes. Like this stuff here. No idea what path this takes. I really think some of this lays up on top of this heater ducting or HVAC ducting. Maybe not. It might live at the bottom. I know this is a speaker wire, so this has to be up pretty close to the top somewhere. I wonder if I shouldn't just sit this thing up here and loosely hang a screw in it. No, I shouldn't do that because, oh no, yeah, I can do that. I don't want to break a tab off, but it's metal on metal, so it should be okay. Next thing I have to do is get the connectors out of the dash here for the instrument cluster. That's a gray and a brown one. Get those popped out. And I'll put those in place when I get a little closer. Speaker wires. Good. These are the light switch wires, or the light switch connector. Those pop in like that. That's backward, isn't it? Yep, afraid so. Maybe like this then? Nah, that can't be it. Oh yeah, that was right. I had it right the first time. Like that and like that. I don't see any more connectors that aren't hooked up yet. To hold all this wiring in place, I'm going to use these zip ties that have these Christmas tree ends on them. That'll help secure it some. Also got this thing here. Not sure what it is, but I have one. No idea where it mounts. I'll have to work on that when I get the dash in the car, I guess. Well, that's as good as I'm going to get that, I think. Let's go ahead and try to put all the HVAC ducting on the back of it. This ought to be a mess. Okay, so that screw hole lines up. Maybe I should just go ahead and start putting screws in it. I was out on Amazon and I found these screws here. They are the same 7mm head and the same thread as the factory original, but the washers are a little bit bigger. And I figured as brittle as this stuff is, and as prone as it is to break, what could it possibly hurt to put a little bit extra thread in there, you know? The real fun is attaching the vent, the driver and passenger vent, because the screws are all the way in the back and at a bizarre angle. Top one's not too bad. Bottom one is pretty bad. Well, I think we can just set it up there. I think that's about all that is required. There's a speaker wire that goes right here, though. Okay, let's see what this does. Not good. Can one of you guys get that side over there? I'd appreciate it. Now, where's my screw? It's got to be somewhere. Had it over here. Yep, my screw is totally gone now. It'll never be found again. It's over. I don't know. We had a good run. We're going to give up and go home. No, not really. Let's try to put one of these screws in. There we go. Not bad. I think I'm going to put all of these in because this is what keeps the dash from falling out or hinging down. I won't tighten them yet, but at least I want to get them all started by hand. Well, I've got all the wiring pretty much put back together on the car. The dash is back in it and it's nice and solid. Got the headlight switch back in it. The steering column is basically back up there, but it hadn't been torqued yet. I've got the fuse box back in it and the other fuse box with the ALDL connector back in it. And I think really the next thing to do is I'm going to put the instrument cluster back in it, the dash bezel back on it, the map pocket back on it, and just finish building out the dash, get the dash pad back on it, get it all put back together as far as I can go. But before I put the cluster back in it, the cluster you guys saw it with was not the original dash cluster for the car. Back a few years ago, or well, a few years before I quit driving it, I pulled a cluster out of a GTA because I wanted the 140 mile per hour speedometer. I was young, give me a break. But either way, we're going to put that back factory again. So let's go ahead and work on getting that thing put back together. And I want to hook up my my battery and make sure that the lights all work and all that stuff before I start putting the bezel and the pad back on it. Before I break this thing apart, I want to just give it a good cleaning. The outside of it anyway. Want a good way to clean stuff? Use an old paintbrush to get in those hard to reach areas. They do amazing. Now this lens, obviously it's never going to be any good again. We're just going to call this a loss because it's garbage. But I've got a fix for that. All right, now all we need to do is just kind of gingerly clean it up and brush it down a little bit, just because it's been sitting a long time and it's ugly. When you're wiping these faces and stuff off, you got to be really careful because it's very easy to discolor these areas and they will look like trash when you're done. So bear that in mind. I actually think what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take the speedometer out of this one and put it in my other cluster. Because now I can't remember if this junkyard cluster was the bad one or if it was the good one. I may have taken this speedometer out of the other cluster and put it in here simply because this is unplugged. I don't remember having done that. So that's what we're going to do. And if the speedometer is wrong, then we will do something else. This cluster definitely looks junkier than the rest of the car, so I'm afraid that maybe that's what happened. Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to take the best of these two clusters and we're going to make a good cluster. The cleanest bolts and all that stuff that we can find is what we'll use. See how these are kind of chalky looking, but these are nice and black. I'm going to lift these gauges or the needles, and we'll pop those on this here. I'm not even going to use this glass because, believe it or not, I have a better one. There we go. This is in way nicer shape, minus the spider nest on the top. So we'll use this. And for the needles, to be able to tell where they are actually pointing, I'm just going to stick a piece of tape under it. We'll make a little line right where it points to. And then we can pull it. I'll just pop this one. We'll put it right back on there. What I'll usually do with these is I put them on a little bit too high and I just push them back until they rest where I want them to. Right about there. Yeah, right. And the tack, it looks like it's just pointing directly at 0, so there's not much I have to do with it. Once again, we'll put it on a little too high and just ease it down. Went too far. Good. The rest of these actually look like they're in good shape, so I'm not going to mess with them. Just want this lens to be as clean as I can get it, or this face. I'll use this bezel. Here's the cool part. This has been laying in my car for a very long time. It is an original GM instrument cluster lens for this car. Look at that, would you? Brand flippin' new. There. That's a ton better. Screws are nice and clean. I'll put it back together. Now, let me show you the bulbs that I ended up going with. You can't really see this, but it looks like a 194 bulb, but it's actually an LED. It's got a glass housing. This is what they look like. Look just like a traditional 194 bulb, but they're COB, chip-on bulb, and they're glass. And they're a warm white. They look exactly like the OE stuff, but they're just a little bit brighter. I buy these things literally by the dozens. I love them. No sponsorship. I just like them. All right, let's stick this back in the car. About half these dash bulbs aren't going to work because if you know anything about LED, they're polarity sensitive. So if you put them in backward, they won't light up. So I figured the easiest thing to do is just stick this thing in the car, see which ones do light up, and then we'll fix as necessary. Let's go to the car. The plan here is just to set this in lightly clip it into place, if it'll clip, if I have everything right. And I got nothing. I had to do some fiddling around. I couldn't get my dash lights to work, so I had to chase down some issues. Turns out, up under the dash right there, there is a remote dimmer module that I forgot to hook up. So I hooked it up and it didn't work. So I had to go to a junkyard, pull another one. But now, look how nice and bright those lights are. That's those LED COB bulbs that I was telling you about. Absolutely gorgeous. So let's keep putting it together. Next thing we'll do is this dashboard. This is the original one to the car. It's not cracked. Of course, I hadn't got it in the car yet either, but I bought this map pocket new not long before I stopped driving the car. And I pulled it off of here so I could wash it, so I could wash the dash and not get it destroyed. But I cannot find the hole to save my life. Is that one? Oh, there's one. There's another one. Oh, there's another one. There we go. Nice. And we have this guy. It goes down like this. Now let's see about the dash bezel. That's about as far as I can take this for now. I'm going to go ahead and put this back up. And I really can't do anything inside-wise until the carpet gets here. And that's going to be at least a couple of weeks out before that happens. So I think I'm going to wait till my injector gets here and put my injector in it and see if that makes the car run better at least. Then we'll be, I guess, onto the hatch to see if we can get the hatch gliders to go on there and make the hatch close, because I still haven't got that done yet. Need to turn this thing around so I can get to the back of it to work on that hatch. I went ahead and stuck my injectors back in it, and the dash is mostly back together. I don't have my center stack in there, and I don't have my kick panels, and I don't have my knee bolsters or footwell covers, because all that's going to have to happen after I get my carpet. But we can do a quick turn it around test drive though, can't we? I mean, hear that noise? Throw out bearing. Think. Also, the car jumps out of first gear. It's done it forever. What's that? I have no idea what that noise is. Something's dragging. My hatch is up. I know what that noise is. Sway bar in link that I've never put on it yet. Watch it jump out of gear. what that is. My brakes are sticky, so I'm going to use my parking brakes. There goes it kicking out of gear. I think I just saw my upshift light work. Oh yeah, look, there it goes. I forgot I even had that. I don't know. It's running bad still. Doesn't have any torque. Is it missing? Anyway, that's the quick ride. Now I want to circle back and do something with that mess right there. This is basically just a track on each side here that slides up and down for the pull down assembly. And evidently there are some like plastic inserts, they call them glides, that go in here. I've bought a set of those, so requires that we take this thing back apart again and then put the glides on it and see if we can make this thing actually close. I'm not gonna lie, that's a bunch of stuff. This right here is supposed to just kind of pop off of here, but man, they've got it clipped on good. There we go. According to the instructions, I have to remove the motor assembly completely from this thing. In my case, I have a nut right there, so I'll pull that. Looks like about a 13. No, it looks like, oh yeah, it's 13. Okay. Unfortunately, it's got a hex on the back side of it that I really can't get anything in there to. Let's see if the old Wera has the right size for it. It's somewhat close. Maybe that will give me just enough to get it done. All right. Supposedly we push this out. That goes there. Now what? It says that we remove these three stars here that hold the motor housing assembly in place. These things just look like they want to break to pieces. All right, and that's the motor out of the way. I'm assuming that all this mess here will just slide in and out now, right? Maybe. Pop that loose. There we go. Okay. So that's the deal. So it looks like these things just sit in here. The thing I don't know is which direction they go. They didn't make that very clear. On the inside, you probably can't see it, but there's a notch in there so that maybe they go up like this so they don't fall out. So they don't, I bet that's it, so they don't slide down. Yeah, I bet that's it. Okay. There we go. Okay. Man, those things are tight. Holy cow, they are tight. I feel like that is too tight. There's no way that motor is going to be able to run that up and down. It's way too tight. Oh, and I've got them backward too. I think I've got this side backward. See how the leg is closer to the back, and on these they're closer to the front. I did that. So I guess I wonder if I can unplug this motor and get this thing out of my way. Oh, that is so much better. Wow, I can work now. All right. Tell you what, it's a dirty job. Man, my hands are taking a whipping. Okay, so I think I had this side on backward. Should be able to do it like this. That. All right, does that make it any better? No, it doesn't. Still extremely tight. It says in the instructions that you may have to take some sandpaper and lightly work these to make them fit better. I'm thinking that's going to have to happen because it is no way that's going to work. Okay, I got it. It didn't take much. I just had to basically, clean it up a little bit. And then I went ahead and cleaned out these channels with a wire brush and re-greased it. Now it moves very well. So I think I'm good to put it back together now. Okay. This is just a mess right here. I wish they had done something cleaner than this from the factory. I'm going to do something cleaner for sure. I wonder if we should test this while we have it on the table. I wonder if it'll do anything at all. That looks pretty good. I say we clean this crap up and put it back on the car and see where we're at from there. This is the cloth tape I'm always going on and on about. I get this stuff on Amazon and it makes a nice clean bundle. I'm not going to tape this ground wire all the way because I don't really remember where it hooks. So I'm just going to leave it out right about here. Now I think we should put it back on the car and see if it actually works or not. Well, the first thing we want to do is make sure we plug this back up, because that would be pretty unforgiving. Ah! I forgot something. I'm an idiot. I forgot to put that bolt back in there. Okay, starting over. I'll be right back. Put this on first. because we wouldn't want to forget that. Then these, I bet it'll take at least a month to figure out how all the adjustment is going to happen on this thing. I think I'm just going to snug it down right here, and we'll see what that does. I have two power connections. That one and that one. This is nothing more than a ground for the hatch release, which this car did not have. But this assembly I got from a junkyard did have. So I don't know if I'll hook that up or not. Well, will it close? Who thinks it will or won't? I think I'm going to start off with moving this thing as far up as it'll go, as far adjusted up as it'll go. And just see where we're at there, because end of the day, I would prefer to have it too high and then work my way down rather than just jamming out that motor. Also, there's a switch here. So this motor assembly has to move down a certain amount in order to flip a switch. So if you have if you have it too far down and it can't pull down enough to hit that switch, then this thing doesn't automatically raise back up when you pop the hatch. Let's try this. Oh, I heard the switch. Did you hear the switch? Well, that's pretty scary, because that means that with it being as far up as it will possibly go, it's barely making that switch. That switch clicked at the last minute. So how are we side to side here? Actually needs to move over to the left some. How does that look? That's pretty close. Oh, click. All right, so the switch clicked. I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. I mean, it's working. It's working. One issue I have is that when the hatch closes, it's too far back. That happens up at the windows. This is a classic problem with hatchback cars like this, where the glass is the basic, hatch. Where it's bolted up at the car, it'll over time slide backward and, walk backward because of the struts pushing it back. So we'll have to work that out as well. But either way, I think at this point we've got a working hatch, working enough hatch. So that's good. All right, so for my next trick, I'm going to take care of the speaker surrounds for the rear B-pillars. Yeah, I know I'm jumping around, but I only have a certain number of parts to work with here. All right, I got a quick interior update here just to make you guys aware of. The carpet, like I said earlier, it's made to order, so it's probably going to be at least another couple of weeks from today before it gets here. And I went ahead and ordered the rest of the interior. So the headliner, the sun visors, the speaker panel covers, sail panel covers, B panel covers, I guess they're called. We already know I have a replacement set of seats for it. So when those orders get here, I'm basically going to have an entire interior to put in the car. So that means that I've got to get to work on doing all the things that are underneath that interior so I don't have to lift it back up like ever. Part of that is the speakers in the car. Now, when I was a younger man, I was a little bit of a audio head. And at one point in my life, I had this car absolutely full of teenage stereo equipment. Again, I was young, give me a break. I had a custom box in the back there that was pretty much flush with the back glass, with a pair of 12s and a pair of 10s, and amplifiers and audio control crossovers and you name it. It was in the car at one point. Spent way too much money on that stuff, but I digress. So the car basically has nothing in it currently in the way of speakers. And also, as you might imagine, the wiring is somewhat, well, untidy. Let's go with that, because teenage me, well, I didn't do things quite like today me does. So I was good about cutting connectors and things like that. What we have to do is, you see that hole in the B-pillar, that's where a speaker lives. And inside that is like a cloth baffle, I guess just to make it sound better, I guess. Factory put that there. It looks like this. This sticks down in that hole, and then there's a plate with a 6x9 that goes over that. And I guess it just makes it sound not quite so tinny. This came out of a junkyard car. I got a pair of these. I was really surprised to find a pair in a junkyard that weren't completely and totally destroyed. And the reason I did it is because mine looked like this on the bottom. And actually, this is the best one. The other one was completely and totally destroyed because this is one of the places that mice got into and just had a heyday. So the very bottoms of them are super nasty and gross, and I'm sure they smell like mouse, and well, it's not staying. So we're gonna put these in there, and then we need to get speaker wiring and speakers worked out. I'd like to have all that put in place beforehand. Also, the dash pad of the car isn't completely and totally in there. It's just got a few screws in it just for fitment's sake, because I knew that I needed to take it back off again in order to fit the correct dash replacement speakers in it. So I'd like to be able to put all the speakers in the car, get all the wiring hammered out, get it all tested, and make sure that basically the groundwork is laid so that when I do put my interior in there, I don't have to lift it back up and chase any gremlins. So we'll do a full test on everything in the car before the interior goes in. Here's how we're going to do that. I went to my local salvage yard, the same one that this came out of, and I found a couple of Delco stereos. Now these are out of like 93 to 95 or 93 up cars or whatever. Maybe, I think these are 95s. Anyway, doesn't matter. They're the same basic radio with the same plugs and the same pinout and all that. I'm going to use these to test with. Now I know I'm going to put the correct radio in there as soon as I find one, and it looks like I'm going to be on eBay for one of those things. Unless one of you guys happens to have one, you know, out there that you want to sell that is in good shape, that looks nice, I would be interested in it. Anyway, we're going to use these to test. I bought 2 radios, and basically I bought a really nice one that is pretty, that came out of, I think it was a Grand Am this came out of, and it was manufactured in November of 1999. And it's pretty, it's in great shape. Also, it doesn't have any sound output. So I bought this one. This one came out of a 95 Trans Am, and it looks like it's been at the bottom of the Titanic. The windshield was out of the car, and it had been for a long time, and water was collected in the radio, and it looks absolutely rough. And of course, it works just fine, except for the CD player, which doesn't matter. Again, this is a testing radio. I got both these radios for 20 bucks, well worth testing. So what I've done here is I have my factory, or my correct dash speakers, not factory. They're a pair of JBLs. Basically just went on Crutchfield and found what speaker will actually work and fit in the dash plate. So this one and this one go in the dash. And these two are the big metal plates with 6x9s that go in those B pillars back there in those cell panels. And these are a pair of JVCs that I have had for a very long time. They were still in the box, still shrink wrapped in plastic, and they're old enough that the box doesn't even have a website on it. So I'm gonna say 90s, probably, late 90s, I don't know. Anyway, that's what we're going with. This radio, I made sure to pull the wiring harness from the factory car. It is the same wiring harness that's in the car. This harness has two halves, a bottom and a top. The bottom pretty much contains the power and the front speakers and the illumination wire and all that. The top basically just contains the 4 wires for the rear speakers. At least in our case, it's all we care about. I've gone through and I've made a list. I've tested everything on the bench. It all works. I know which speaker lead is positive and which one's negative because I can't find in the service manual where that's at. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, speakers have a plus and a minus terminal on them. And if you hook this one up correctly, plus to plus, minus to minus, and you hook this one up backward, plus to minus, minus to plus, they're called out of phase. And what that means is when the big part here travels out on this one, it travels in on this one. And that basically cancels out. So you end up with no depth and no bottom. So it's important, if you're doing this, to make sure that you know what is plus and what is minus. The way I do this, when I don't know and when the wires aren't evident, for example, this wire has this speaker here has a tan and a brown. Which one of those is positive? I don't know. What I'll do is I'll hook up the radio, hook up the speaker, tune it to a static station, give it just enough volume to hear it. I'll take a multimeter, set it on a DC voltage scale, a small scale, and then basically put my leads on there, just touch it while the thing's playing static. And if I have a positive reading on my multimeter, then it's a good bet that your positive multimeter lead is touching a positive speaker wire. That's pretty much how I did it. I went through all the speakers, I did it, I double did it, I triple did it, I did it again, and I basically have a wiring diagram. So at this point, I know when I put it in the car how to hook it up. So let's go ahead to the car and let's get all of this stuff put in and installed. And I really wouldn't mind doing just a little bit of a test to make sure that it all works. I'll show you that as we get a little closer. So anyway, let's get to the car and I'll stop talking. Well, here we are on the passenger side of the car, and this is the first place I need to make a repair. In this case, this is the speaker lead for the right rear speaker, and it stops right about here. Don't know what happened to it, but it's gone. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to extend this all the way back. It's going to go right up through here and right into that speaker cavity that's right here. To do that, I'm just going to solder and heat shrink, and then I've got a few extra pieces of this stuff left over. I don't have enough of it, but here's what it is. I didn't realize I was that low. To solder it, we're going to use the mighty TS100 soldering iron. If you guys don't have one of these soldering irons, I'm telling you, it will change your flipping life if you do very much of this stuff. This is the handiest little thing I've ever seen in my life. I go on and on about it. Right now, the tip is icy cold. You can press the button to turn it on. Watch this sucker go up. I mean, we can melt solder now. This thing, literally in 30 seconds, it is ready to solder. I don't know how they do one for that cheap, as cheap as these things are. And no, I'm not sponsored by these people. I own 3 of these soldering irons. Hell, I keep one in my truck because they'll also run off of a DeWalt drill battery. Anyway, I'll put an Amazon link down there because I always try to do that when I think it's something that you guys might like or benefit from. Anyway, all right. This piece of speaker wire appears to not have any ends to it. Weird. I'm just going to strip back a goodly amount. Very important to use a goodly amount. And as far as which side on this kind of wire is positive and which side's negative, I usually use the lighter color, like the silvery color, as positive, and the darker color, which is copper, as my negative. Maybe that's right. It doesn't really matter. It's just as long as you keep it straight in your head. And for this side, we'll do the same thing. Just going to strip back a nice, appropriate amount. Now is an excellent time to put some heat shrink on there before you get it all done up. And as usual, I will leave a link for this heat shrink tube and pretty much everything that I'm using, because when you find something that works, it's nice to, it's nice to know what it is and people who have used it and such. So I'll put both of those on. And then as far as my speakers, this is the diagram that I made earlier with the multimeter on the bench. I'm looking at my right rear speaker, which is this one, and it looks like my dark blue is my positive. So dark blue is this one in this case. Like I said, they match up pretty good. Basically, I'll just wire them together like that. Then we'll put some solder on them. A lot of times it's helpful if you get some solder on the tip of the soldering iron and then touch it to the wires. Helps heat it up a little faster. That's one. And this solder is technically too big to be doing this with, but my other little solder is up in my little electronics room. There's that one. I think we're done with the old TS100. I'll just move him out of the way. I'll use the complete inappropriate tool with which to shrink the shrink wrap. Because there's a fine line between shrinking and burning, I have learned. Now this heat shrink's pretty good stuff. It's got the adhesive in it, so when it melts, the inside turns ooey, gooey, gluey, and it will, it kind of seals out weather. Not that it really matters on the inside of the car, but you know, every little bit helps, right? And while this thing is 3,000 degrees, I'll stick it back in this factory wire loom here. It's hot. It's still hot. Oh, it's so hot. I should stop touching it, but I won't because it's hot. There we go. That's back in there. All right, now, other thing I'm going to use is these. These are zip ties with little Christmas trees on the back of them. The factory had these things fastened like here, and I think here, and all the way up the side. But those little connectors they're junk. They're long gone. There's a few of them in the floor. They look like this, roughly. They're like little clips that clip over, but they're all broke. So I'm going to try to find one that is a reasonably close fit to what I've got going on here. Looks like this one might be it. Right here. Yep, there we go. I don't think these will interfere with the carpet. I don't really know. I don't think they will, because those factory clips protruded up pretty far themselves. I've got the remnants of one of these clips right here. Let's pop that out. There we go. And I think that's all for it. And I actually think I went the wrong way with that. See how this right here is protruding up rather than down? These little things will let you back them out, which is pretty handy. So you can undo them. That's really, really nice. All right, let's try it this way. See if that's a little bit cleaner. Yeah, that's going to be cleaner for sure. So I'm just going to do all of these pretty much the same way. And I'm going to go ahead and pull back an amount that I think is right and get it ran up to the speaker. And then I'll pull back a smidge more. Go ahead and cut that off. Because I need to set my, I need to set this stuff on here next. And it's so much easier to do it this way rather than trying to split it. I'll just put both of these on there. It won't be perfect, but it'll be way better than what we had. For tape, I'm going to use this, this cloth tape that, again, I go on and on about because it kind of retains that factory wiring harness look and feel. This particular stuff is made by X-Fasten, and I don't think it has an end on it either. I'm going to have to get some glasses. I'm just going to wrap this union here where these two pieces meet. There. All right. Just do the exact same thing. Pull these down. I've got another union going on right here. I'll just tape that union as well. Give him the same treatment. And then we're going to have one more right here on the side. I think I can use one of these small ones here and get away with it. Yes, I can. I think there's another one that goes here because I pulled one out. Just going to give myself some room here. And I know there's another one right there. All right, there we go. Now the rest of this, it's going to be basically just going straight up into the speaker, which you really can't see, but here. It's going to be going right up into the speaker cubby right there. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of extra length so I can work with this. And for connectors, I'm just going to use these Tycon crimp connectors. They'll be perfectly fine for some speakers. And I'm not going to solder these. I just don't really see any point in doing it. Because after all, the factory didn't solder theirs. We'll just crimp those on. And there's that. All right, let's get the baffle and get it put in there, and then we'll load the speaker in, see how that's going to look. We go in like this. Now, if you look at the bottom of this thing, you'll see that it's been repaired, because this stuff, if you bend it, I mean, it'll just break and tear away like crazy. So I'm going to try to get it in here and not mess it up. There we go. So that's how that's going to sit. For the speaker, we should be able to just set it in place just like that. You see there's a relief cut down here for the wire so that it doesn't get pinched. That's pretty good. The wire's nice and loose. One thing I do have a question about though is whether or not this speaker protrudes too far, because I don't remember if the factory speaker was mounted on top of this plate or under this plate. Just don't really recall. But I do think I remember having some issues with fitment in my youth for speakers that stuck out too far, and maybe the cell panel cover wouldn't go over it or whatever. I don't really recall. But anyway, I'll cut these tails. I'll get the other side wrapped up. We'll move on to the front. Well, like I said on the dash earlier, I had a couple of screws in each side just to keep it located and up there. Go ahead and pull that out and let's mount these plate speakers in the dash. And try not to crack the dash because it is original to the car. Well, here are the speaker connections for this speaker. And I don't think those are the factory ones on there, but they should work just fine for what we're doing. I'm just going to dry fit the speaker and just make sure that it looks right. And it does. It's even got the little tab that you probably can't see here that hooks over the speaker. And consulting my notes here, the dark green is the positive connection. So dark green is positive and light green is negative. And I'm going to need to put a new end on this, I think, because, oh no, it'll plug on. Oh yeah, it plugged on and snapped. That's super good. All right. Let me make sure light green or lime is negative. Lime is negative. All right. That should be that. Super paranoid about this right here. It's really easy to lay your arm on that too hard and end up breaking that. Like everything else on the car, we won't go too tight with any of these things. All plastic, brittle. We'll just snug it and do a little more and leave it alone. That should have all 4 speakers in the car. Let's turn our attention to the disaster that is the radio wiring harness now, because it's pretty significant. So this is the half of the wiring harness that I have now. This is the bottom half, the one that has a power from switch to ignition, a power from battery constant, a ground, a dimmer, and the 4 wires that power the front 2 speakers. This one, or this connector, would be the one that has the wires that power the rear speakers. And as you notice, that connector isn't there. At some point in its life, it got cut off. Again, I don't do that kind of stuff these days, but when you're a teenage kid and there's no such thing as Amazon, you do what you got to do. So what I plan to do is take the other harness and cut that top connector off there and solder on the proper connector to make this radio work. Now in the case of this connector, there's only supposed to be 4 wires for this car, but this one has an extra pair of wires. I don't know what these wires are for. I don't know if maybe it had an output, like a low impedance output for an amplifier or something in the car that it was in. But either way, I tested this on all speakers and there's nothing coming out of these wires, no power, no nothing on the radio. So my plan is to just double these back and tape them up and not worry about them, because they do not apply, obviously, to this car. It's also interesting that the wires are a much smaller diameter on the newer cars. This came out of a 95 Trans Am with that, that hot stereo in it. The wires are tiny. It's kind of strange. It's almost like they started counting pennies and cutting corners. Anyway, we're going to do these the same way we do everything else. We're going to strip them all back, get ourselves a goodly amount to work with, solder them back together with the old TS100 that was burning my pants. Plug the radio up, see if we have noises. I like to take my heat shrink tubing and cut it in half, because the individual pieces that are in the pack are just way too long for most jobs that I've found. All right, well, they match up pretty well color to color. We got dark blue, light blue, and we've got brown, and we've got yellow. And you'll notice that I heat shrink them together in little bands to keep them straight for later. I shouldn't even need a wiring diagram for this, because this is just one for one, color for color. So I'll put both of these on. I don't have enough wire strip back here for my liking, so I'm going to pull some more in order to get a good wrap, a good mechanical connection before I worry about my my solder connection. Old TS100 is already up to temperature, but I'll tell you what's not up to temperature. My solder, because can't find it. Found it. Make sure to get enough till it drips. That's how you know you've got enough. Not really. That's how you know you've got too much. Some heat shrink. Always run your heat shrink till it catches on fire and burns. That's what you want. With a 1,000,000-degree torch. When your soldered wires together, try and make sure that your solder doesn't leave like a sharp peak on it, because a sharp peak can easily pierce the heat shrink tubing and end up shorting somewhere. I think at this point, it's time to put the radio in it and just see what we get. These connectors here, they're actually designed to snap together so that they go in the radio as one unit, which is kind of interesting. I'm just going to pull that back, and later on I'll put a piece of tape around it after we test. So let's plug it in and see what we can catch fire today. Probably lots. All right, there's that. Oh, now I have to turn the key on, and it's way over there. Let's go backward with it. Do we have anything? Absolutely nothing. And I mean nothing. What if we turn the key to on? Oh, here we go. What are we missing here? It came on for a second. Is it a ground problem? Let's see. No, obviously not a ground problem. Oh, I just had it flash again. Do we have a bad connection somewhere? I think we do. Wonder where that's at. We obviously have to have a bad connection somewhere. Because it's really trying. All right, I'll work this out, bring you back. Well, I fixed it. The way I fixed it was to cut this connector completely off of it, because I think maybe I'm having some pin tension issues with it anyway. And I just put the other one from the bench on it and just resoldered and reheat shrank everything. At this point, we should be okay. Key on, radio on. I have uniform static. Let's hook up an antenna. Now, I know this doesn't look like an antenna, but trust me, this is an antenna. I'm going to take a piece of wire. I'm going to wrap it tightly around this guy here. I'm just going to jam it back in the back of the radio where the antenna connection goes. If I can find it, there it is right there. And then this part, just kind of pitch up on the windshield. Now what do we have? Still nothing. How about another station? Oh, there we go. Okay, that works. Okay, well, without playing too much copyrighted music there, that works. All the speakers seem to be playing. It doesn't sound bad. So that means that we have speakers in, and since they don't sound too trashy, I think I think that we're good as far as our phases go. I'm gonna have to listen to it a little bit more offline because you guys can't hear the copyright music on account of YouTube doesn't like that. So I'll do that, and if we're good, I'll tape this harness back up and make it look like something. And basically, I guess I can put the dash pad back on it, and that'll be the wrap for at least the main part of the wiring. I can't think of anything else that I have to do to make the wiring right in the car. So anyway, I'll listen to this. I'll be right back. Yeah, it sounds okay. I think they're all in phase and they sound okay. For some reason, you can never find an aftermarket speaker, really in my opinion, that ever sounds as good as the factory originals do. They just lack depth. They just do. Obviously that changes when you start amplifying them and such. But anyway, these sound about like how I remember. You know, you're not going to be really jamming. And there's some distortion at high volumes, but I blame that on those cheap rear speakers that now I may or may not keep. but they sound fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I plan to keep them and just run them. And I think that will pretty much do this video. I think we're starting to run kind of long. You probably won't see a video next week on this car because once again, I'm just trying to wait for parts to get here. So I've slowed down to about every other week because there's just not that much to do. I want to get the interior done now and get that finished because I just don't want them to lay around and get, you know, mouse chewed or get wet or get dirty or whatever. I don't trust myself to keep the seats clean is what I'm trying to tell you guys. So trying to wrap this up as quick as I can. I do have a few engine things I'm going to do. I'm going to replace that O2 sensor. I'm going to replace the throttle position sensor probably. I'll replace the IAC. And we're probably going to put the OTC OBD1 scanner on this car and see what kind of data it gives us back maybe in the next episode as well. Anyway, guys, as usual, appreciate you watching. If you wouldn't mind, leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you think. What do you think I should do next? How you think the project's coming? I want to hear from you. I'd like to steer my channel in the direction that you guys care about watching. With that being said, guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about us, and I'll see you next time right here on Project Time Garage. Thanks for watching.